Hey folks, we'll be kicking this off around 3:40. You can welcome to continuing networking, and there's sodas in the kitchen.
Good afternoon, everyone. We have everyone start taking their seats. That would be lovely. Thank you. All right, once everyone is seated, we will get started. All right, awesome. Good afternoon. My name is Sarah Yole, and I'm with PG&E. I lead our local government affairs team here in the Bay Area, and I'm honored to welcome you here today. PG&E's responsibility as an energy provider goes far beyond our core mission of providing safe, reliable, affordable, and clean energy to our 16 million customers. We also have a responsibility to build a better future for everyone whose lives we touch. This means delivering for our hometowns, serving our planet, and leading with love. It means making it right and making it safe. It means helping drive clean energy technologies while also ensuring that their benefits are accessible to all. And it means helping communities build resilience against climate change, as well as thwarting climate change in ways that leave no one behind. Unlike some companies that only serve the bottom line, our vision of corporate sustainability at PG&E is captured in our triple bottom line approach to doing business, serving people, the planet, and California's prosperity, underpinned by strong operational performance. At PG&E, we value our partnerships and are honored to be here partnering with the Walnut Creek Chamber of Commerce and other like organizations. I would like to encourage our guests to attend the reception that is going to be following this event right across the street at Bon Vino. And it is my honor and pleasure to now introduce the board chair for the Walnut Creek Chamber of Commerce and Visitors Bureau, Audrey G. Audrey G is a partner for Brown, G. and Winger employment law attorneys in Walnut Creek. Welcome, Audrey.
Great, thank you, Sarah. Well, hello, everyone. Audrey G. It's my honor to serve as the board chair for the Chamber of Commerce and Visitors Bureau. And welcome to the future of Walnut Creek. This is an amazing program. I'm so thrilled that we're here in the library today. But events like these can only happen because we have amazing sponsors. And I want to give a really special thank you to PG&E for being our presenting sponsor for this year's Future of Walnut Creek Forum. And then I also want to thank our other sponsors. We have Contra Costa Association of Realtors, we have Republic Services, Walnut Creek Downtown, and a special thank you to the City of Walnut Creek. I also want to thank and recognize our Premier Investor Circle. These members are major investors in our events and programs and help make our membership affordable to the small business in our region, and that's what makes our city go. I'd also like to introduce our elected officials present today. Representing the Walnut Creek City Council, and please hold your applause until I'm done, Mayor Loella Haskew. If you can stand up when I call your name, that would be wonderful. Mayor Pro Tem Cindy Darling, Councilmember Matt Francois, Councilmember Cindy Silva, and Councilmember Kevin Wilk. Thank you, everyone. I also want to thank the city staff who work so hard for us, as well as our city manager, Dan Buckshi. Please stand so we can thank you for your service. I'd also like to recognize our past mayor, Sue Rainey. Is she here? She was registered, and Sue has done a wonderful job for us. And then also representing the Contra Costa Water District, Antonio Martinez, if you could stand, Ernie Avila, Pat Young, and also with us, Michelle Henry from the Assemblymember Rebecca Bauer-Cahan. Thank you. I'm also excited to recognize the past chairs of the Walnut Creek Chamber of Commerce. Tim Argenti, go ahead and stand. Linda Remack-Kohlberg, Mary Brooks, Angela Housaye-Ashley, Matt Gashard, and Ed Del Beccaro. And can I have all of the current chamber board members stand and be recognized? I saw a few of you on the way up. There you go. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate your service. It's great to see you here today. So I'm going to turn the next portion over of the agenda to Matt Kashard. Here you are, the chair of our Civic Affairs program, and he's also the past board chair. Matt will introduce the City of Walnut Creek Leadership Panel, followed by the introduction to our police chief. Thanks so much, Matt. Yeah, absolutely.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome once again. Welcome to today's leadership panel discussion on a topic that is paramount to the future of our beloved city, the future of Walnut Creek. It is an honor to have with us today two distinguished leaders who are instrumental in shaping the course of our city's destiny, Mayor Loella Haskew and City Manager Dan Buckshi. Welcome to you. As we stand on the threshold of a new era filled with both opportunities and challenges, it is essential to engage. Okay, thanks. Advance the slide. It is essential to engage in a thoughtful dialogue and visionary planning to ensure that Walnut Creek continues to thrive and prosper for generations to come. Mayor Haskew and City Manager Buckshi bring with them a wealth of knowledge, experience, and dedication to public service, making them ideal voices to lead us in this critical discussion. Throughout their tenures, both Mayor Haskew and City Manager Buckshi have demonstrated a steadfast commitment to advancing the interests of our community, fostering economic growth, and enhancing the quality of life for all residents. Today's discussion will provide us with invaluable insights into the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead, as well as the strategies and initiatives that will guide us towards a brighter future. From urban planning and infrastructure development to economic revitalization and community engagement, we have much ground to cover as we chart the course for Walnut Creek's continued success. And again, please join me in welcoming Mayor Haskew and So we're going to start off, and this is a discussion. So I'm going to ask some questions, and first of all, I think I'll start with the mayor, and this is your multiple terms as mayor, which is an interesting thing. So I think the city and the people that are here would like to kind of understand how the city goes about selecting a mayor from the candidates, the city council.
Well, we have, thank you. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you for making me feel welcome. We have a system whereby we go by initially the person who has the most votes, and then it goes down, and then it rotates amongst a lot of us. And sometimes you have to be reelected to get to be mayor. So we're watching it. Yeah.
And tell us, how many times have you been mayor of Walnut Creek?
3, and my last time was 2020, and by a person, every mayor I've talked to and former mayor have agreed 2020 was the worst year to be mayor. We're hoping 2024, got my fingers crossed we get through March, that 2024 is going to be a banner year.
Well, I think I can appreciate what you're saying. I was chair of the chamber in 2020.
Yes.
The things that were happening. So, and Madam Mayor, could you just tell us a little bit of your perspective on the difference between your last session as mayor and this tenure?
Ignoring COVID and budget problems that happened in 2020, plus, I guess, a lot of rioting and other painful memories. This year, I think we're really looking forward to a very solid year. We are chugging along, and we have a great council who work really well together. We don't always agree, but we always get to a common answer. So I think we've got an extraordinary team. And let me take it another step further. We have an extraordinary staff at the City of Walnut Creek. I believe, without a doubt, they are the best in the area, if not the world.
I do think that most people would agree the congeniality that we have on our council is something that's we don't always see, and it's something that's kind of unique to Walnut Creek, I think. Well, let's get right into it. So I'm going to ask some general questions, and each of you can engage a bit. in the law, we call them compound questions sometimes, and there's objectionable compound questions, but I'm going to ask compound questions and let you kind of run with it. So first of all, what are the top priorities for the future development and growth of Walnut Creek, and how do you plan to address them, and how do you intend to balance the future development with the unique character of the city?
All right, I'll go ahead and kick this one off. And again, thanks for the invite to be here. Nice to see such a great turnout. And you know, Matt, I think one of the key words in your question is balance. And that really is the ultimate challenge of how do we balance the many interests about what Walnut Creek should be now and into the future. And I can assure you, and I'm sure the mayor can as well and the council, there's no shortage of ideas about what the future should be. And that's really one of both the challenges and what makes this job fun, is to try to find that balance and find that middle ground or that point that works for everybody for how to go forward. You know, with that in mind, obviously the city has a lot of strategies and plans about what to do in the future. And I think the top line is we really want Walnut Creek to continue to be an economic and cultural hub for the East Bay. That when people think of the East Bay and where's the go-to city, that it's Walnut Creek. And I think in many respects we're there, but we've got work to do in that regard. You know, more specifically, we want to continue to be an employment center, an entertainment and retail center. And we also need to make sure we're doing our part to provide housing, as there are many state mandates to support housing going forward. And for those that may not be aware, there's a tremendous push from the state legislature to address the statewide housing crisis, as it's become known. There are a lot of folks who think that the shortage and price of housing is one of the biggest economic challenges facing California. So what we're trying to do is certainly accommodate our fair share, and we have been planning for housing. We have an approved housing element by the state. We have to plan for 5,800 new units over the next 8-year planning cycle set by the state, which for reference is about a 150% increase over the current cycle. But the key is we don't want that planning for housing to come at the expense of jobs. We want to make sure we're looking at both and striking the appropriate jobs and housing balance. So that'll be one of the focal points going forward, to make sure we do both. And so far, I think we've been able to do that. We'll see as additional mandates come from the state how challenging that'll be going forward. You know, a little more specifically going back to the economy, obviously we have a very strong and vibrant downtown. We want that to continue. Obviously Broadway Plaza is key, as are our regional shopping centers. Big focus on office space. I suspect we'll touch on that a little bit later. I'll come back to that, but there have obviously been some challenges with COVID, but that's a big focal point. Retail doing fairly well. But one area I wanted to highlight that's been a big shining spot for Walnut Creek is medical and the growth of medical over time. We've been fortunate, city of our size, to have two great hospitals here in Walnut Creek for a long time. Medical has been expanding in Shadelands, and then most recently Bass Medical as well as John Muir have opened new state-of-the-art cancer centers that will provide tremendous services to folks here locally as well as regionally, and will likely create additional demand for the need for additional medical office space going forward. So that's a big focal point. One other thing I wanted to touch on, you know, getting back to balance that I think is worth noting going back to the past. It's actually 50 years this year since the voters approved the purchase and creation of the open space that surrounds Walnut Creek on about half of our border, primarily Lime Ridge and Shell Ridge. And that was a very novel concept at the time, and I think it's part of what really creates the character of Walnut Creek. We're both urban in our downtown area, we have our suburban neighborhoods, and we still have a piece of our rural history here that people love and cherish and are very active in our open space. And then lastly, I would mention in terms of culture, we want to make sure that Walnut Creek remains a very open and welcoming and inviting community to everybody who lives here or visits here, and that we maintain that sense of connection and community that we have. When we were a smaller city, a smaller town, as we continue to grow, let's make sure we maintain those connections and that feel of a community that has a lot of pride, which we currently do in Walnut Creek.
All right, and thank you for that. I think I'll get into maybe some specifics when we talk about the overall goals, but let's talk a little bit right now about what specific initiatives or projects are underway to improve transportation, the transportation infrastructure in Walnut Creek, and alleviate the traffic congestion in Walnut Creek, which continues to be a huge issue for people.
Yeah, probably the most obvious transportation issue in Walnut Creek is actually BART. We're partly the city we are because we are a main station for BART, and BART's condition really has a big impact on us. They deliver our employees to us, they take our workers to other places. It's made our theater stronger, it's been an important part. BART had gone down, and went really down in COVID. BART's coming back, and I have it on very good authority that they are working hard on improvements, and not many people know, but the very last of the original trains is going out of service in April. Because the new trains came in so efficiently, they were able to retire them a lot sooner. They are also working on their fare gates so that they should be bringing their fare rates up. There are no jumping over big fare gates, and slowly but surely they're going to put them in over their whole system. We are a pedestrian-friendly city. Even I can get from one side of the street to the other with my very short legs because they time the traffic lights really well. But we focus on walkability, and we also focus on bikeability and scooterability and all the other things that go into making it fun and possible to get around our city. We're also concerned and on our way to Vision Zero, which is a term for getting our places so that they are as safe as possible as they can be. Vision Zero is vision of impacts to pedestrians and cars and things like that. If you've noticed on Homestead, we have done some traffic calming measures. The speed cushions, which I don't agree with their name. I have a little car, and it's a speed mountain. There are crosswalks, there are narrow lanes in some streets, and pedestrian scrambles. It took me a while to remember what a pedestrian scramble is. That's when all the lights turn red for the cars and the pedestrians can cross every which way. So then there's also and we've received a grant, downtown parking management to better accommodate all the things that go on downtown, loading and unloading, parking, food service deliveries, rideshare, Uber, Lyft. Transportation isn't just what it used to be when you could show up with your horse and put the horse, tie to the horse to the thing. Now we've got 27 different kinds of transportation and ways to park, and we're working on making it as efficiently as possible. Downtown parking, if you can believe this, is underutilized. Some of us know that just on the rim outside of hard downtown is the purple pipes, and the purple pipes let you park longer and cheaper than they do if you want to park right in front of your restaurant. And because we approve of walkability and bikeability, and especially walkability, if you park a little further away, you work up a better appetite before you go to that restaurant. So we want to continue to encourage people to find the other outside ways. We've got private and public parking going on. We care about people and getting them to the place they want to go.
And I think that's important. I think lots of people don't appreciate what's going on in the city, particularly with respect to parking in the downtown. So thank you for that. Dan, you had talked about housing affordability a little earlier. Let's get right into that, because that's an important thing. We hear about that all the time. People say our kids grow up here, but they can't afford to live here. The people that work in many of our downtown businesses can't afford to live here. So I'm going to ask this question. How do you plan to address the housing affordability crisis in Walnut Creek and ensure that residents of all income levels have access to safe and affordable housing options?
Well, this isn't just a Walnut Creek problem, and it has gotten worse since the inflation and the interest rates have gone up, and it's harder and harder to get that first house to get on to the growing up till you get a bigger house and then a more expensive house, and then you get old and then you got to go back into a senior citizen place. We're
Easy.
we're continuing to chip away at the challenge, but there's no real perfect answer. We are living, as Dan referenced, with a big push by the state for infinitely more housing to be built throughout California. And it's a daunting job, especially since we don't develop houses. The houses are developed by developers, and developers have to watch to the bottom line. And they want us to focus on affordability, but it's very hard for a developer to put together a program that does acknowledge that the developer deserves a net profit and it still needs to be affordable. Walnut Creek has had, over the years, a outstanding representation for its care for its affordable housing. We have invested, and I almost don't believe the number, but I know it's true, $35 million to build affordable housing, and that only helped by 416 low-income housing units. We've got to be creative, we've got to be smart, we've got to look at new kinds of residences like ADUs. They're in maybe one of our salvations for getting housing for people. And we're trying to streamline the process so that the developer can get the job approved and ready to go much faster. I've held out that Walnut Creek is the poster child for caring about people who are struggling to afford housing, and I stand by that statement.
Dan, I want to ask you a question about that housing, because people are saying, gosh, there's building going on all over Walnut Creek. I mean, the town is turning it into a little European city in some ways, where lots and lots of apartments downtown, lots of them on the west side of town, lots of things are happening. That 5,800 number that we keep hearing about, are those new places making a dent in that 5,800, or is that something off in the future?
They're starting to, certainly, and as you noted, the building that's been occurring largely in around the downtown is very intentional. The idea is to build the housing near transit, near BART, near bus stations, so we can have a more walkable community. We get cars off the road, better for the environment, as we don't have as many auto emissions, people driving up and down Ignacio Valley Road or somewhere else. And in theory, it's for those that work in and around downtown Walnut Creek, it's walkable and they don't have to go far. So that has been intended by design, and we'll see much of the new housing of those 5,800 units continue to be built in and around downtown. So of that 5,800, we're only a few hundred in at this point, so we have a lot of work to do on that front, and downtown will continue to evolve and change, and frankly, it will become more dense. There's no doubt about it. That's really what the state is mandating and requiring cities to do to plan for this going forward.
All right. I want to talk a little bit about businesses, because we walk around downtown and we see some empty storefronts and things. And so this question kind of goes to that issue. In what ways is the city fostering economic development and attracting new businesses to Walnut Creek while supporting existing local businesses? And with that in mind, how is the rise of remote work impacting the landscape of downtown Walnut Creek in the coming years?
Yeah, there's been a lot of work in this area. Economic development and job creation has been one of the City Council's top 5 priorities for several years now, and has made a big investment. By way of example, just a few years ago, we had one city staff person focused on economic development. We now have 3.5, and we added those folks in that investment during a time when a lot of budgets were being cut during COVID, because we thought it was important to focus on the long game of investing in the economy. Additionally, our team is put together and working with the Chamber, with Walnut Creek Downtown, DRAA, and several other partners, an economic development action plan that focuses really on the next 1 to 3 years that can be done. We intentionally didn't create a 10-year plan because we're still kind of changing from COVID, and I think it's not real very realistic to try to project what's going to happen 5 to 10 years from now. So really focusing on what we can do. One of the things that came out from that that's available now is an economic dashboard. It's on our website if you're interested. There are a lot of great stats and data, and the idea is to really have our fingers on the pulse of the local economy so we know what's going on and can make shifts and make adjustments as needed, and hopefully fairly quickly. If you haven't checked that out, I'd encourage you to do so. I think it was just recently updated. You know, another key strategy from the economic action plan is related to auto sales and service is a big focal point. The auto industry is a big part of our economy here locally. With the shift to electric vehicles that's occurring, there'll be fairly significant changes, and the sales and service models are changing as well. So we want to make sure we're in close touch with the auto industry so that we can continue to be a city of choice for auto dealerships and service stations to locate here in Walnut Creek. You know, you mentioned the impact of remote work and what's happening to the landscape of Walnut Creek. You know, what I've been reading in terms of remote work, obviously there are some upsides, there are some downsides. One of the downsides, or challenges I should say, is that office space vacancies have increased significantly. I think we've all seen that, whether it's here or elsewhere. And everything that I've read and seen suggests that the Bay Area has been hit as hard or harder than anywhere in the country in terms of office vacancy. And it's a result of being so technology focused. I mean, we're the technology capital of the world here in Silicon Valley, not too far away. The types of jobs that they lend themselves very well here to remote work, the technology exists. So to some extent, we're a victim of our own success in the Bay Area. And we've seen that certainly in the bigger cities, San Francisco, in Oakland, and we're seeing some of that in Walnut Creek, but relatively we're faring quite well compared to some of the other cities. We've had a number of businesses relocate from some other cities, which in bigger picture I think is unfortunate, but if they're going to relocate somewhere, we'll take them here in Walnut Creek for sure. And one of the reasons that we hear folks are coming here is because Walnut Creek is safe, it's clean, and it's inviting. And while that sounds very basic, that's not a given these days, and that is very intentional, and that's part of the foundation we're trying to provide here in Walnut Creek, that folks feel safe, welcome, and that they want to be here, whether it's to live, work, or to visit. So that's had I think a positive impact. Walnut Creek's image in that regard is very positive. And just to give you a sense for comparative purposes, one of the areas we monitor is what's called the I-680 North Corridor, the cities and around that area. The average vacancy rate for that area of office space is about 25%, and we're at about half that at 13%. Now it varies. There are some areas of the city, some along the Ignacio corridor, that are in the 20%, others that are in the 3 to 5%. But on average, we're doing roughly 50% better than our competition in that regard. Retail continues to be very strong, both downtown as well as our suburban shopping centers. Our vacancy rate is at about 7%, and what's considered healthy is 10%. So we're actually doing as well or even slightly better than we were pre-COVID, which is not very common. So I can assure you that when I talk with other city managers around the area, they're really envious of the position that Walnut Creek is in, and I make sure to rub it in every chance I can when I talk with them. So overall, though, that said, I think office space might be a little more challenging for a while before it gets better, so we're tracking that closely, again, to make sure what's the best use for that office space going forward. Should it remain office? Should it be repurposed into something else? And again, keeping an eye on the bigger picture of maintaining the jobs-housing balance going forward.
All right, yes, I see the downtown, and every time Kathy Hemmenway comes to a meeting and talks, she gives us a long list of new businesses that are coming into Walnut Creek, restaurants and all, and that's always very satisfying. I think the issue of commercial is, I think we'd like to have those people that are moving out of San Francisco and perhaps Oakland to move to Walnut Creek because we have empty office spaces for them, so perhaps we can work on that at some point. People often talk about that Walnut Creek has 2 transportation hubs, 2 BART stations, and between that out Main Street, and actually incredible area for growth. And I think you call it the North Downtown Development Plan, something such as that. What is that plan actually?
Yeah, I think you're referring to the North Downtown Specific Plan, which that's I don't know, that's bureaucratic speak for basically it's our blueprint for how the city will grow in a certain area going forward. And a big focus has been on the west part of downtown and the north part. And we really want to focus, you'll see a fair bit of the housing going into both the west and the north downtown areas. And you'll see a continued focus on office and other types of business in those areas as well, to really try to extend the core downtown farther north and farther west is really the idea of those plans.
Since I was on the committee, it only goes about as far as where the cars and the dealerships stop at the edge of downtown. I'm sure that at some point we will think about taking that kind of system and taking it all the way down Main Street and continue on out. But yeah, it didn't cover all the territory you were talking about.
I see. All right, thanks. A big issue, Measure O. This is something that, in unusual circumstances, businesses backed it, the chamber backed it, and obviously it's important for the citizens to kind of know where are we going with Measure O. We hear lots about Heather Farm, and that's wonderful in that development, but can you talk a little more about that Measure O and what's the money being used for, that kind of thing?
Thanks to Cindy, then mayor, I think, even maybe, Cindy Silva appointed me to the Blue Ribbon Task Force on Fiscal Stability. That was before I even thought about running for council. And during that experience, we discovered that we were really an aging infrastructure city. And when I did decide to run for city council, one of my points about what we need to do is to have a half-cent sales tax. That was in 2012. We had a dissonant council, and we never could get the strength to get it together, but we did very recently with the help of, as you point out, the chamber and lots of people who understand what we are trying to accomplish in terms of updating our community, voted Measure O in. It went into effect on April of last year, and we're starting to get the funds that are generated for that. The city is allocating it, we're keeping a separate fund for this, and we're making sure that we're living up to our promises to the community by investing in all the things that we asked them what we should be investing in when they voted it. So we have a big investment in the police and safety. We have 8 new positions in the police department, 5 of which are police officers. We have additional crossing guards to help kids get across streets safely. We have expanded library hours in both our libraries, and Walnut Creek is a little unique in that we are one of the few cities that have 2 libraries. Some of this money is going to support the economic development and the downtown business section. We invest in homeless services. The core program, which is part of the county, is paid for out of these funds. We are supporting the strategic plan at the Leisure Center to bring in new people and to keep our performances and events out there at the top level. So they have some new positions, and if you've paid attention, there's a lot more interesting program than we used to have. And we're also investing in environmental stability, as well as you point out, we're rebuilding we're hoping to rebuild the community. We're not actually nailing things yet, but we're hoping to rebuild the community center and put in a new set of swimming facilities to replace the Clark Center, which we hold together with duct tape and bubble gum right now.
All right, thank you. There's a question that often comes up, and citizens are wondering how they can engage with the city. And so we've often talked to, I think we had some elected officials come to a chamber meeting and asking, how do you impact Sacramento? If you're concerned about something, what do you do? And we heard about that. This question goes more to how do citizens engage with city government and contribute to shaping the future of Walnut Creek?
I'm looking, I'll start with the city government, but I'm looking at this as a bigger picture, which is if you are involved in Walnut Creek, you can be involved as a volunteer for Community Service Day. You can go to the library. You can take advantage of all the different cultural events here. That helps for the vibrancy of the city. But there are things to do. If you think the council isn't doing exactly the right job, you can run for council. We have a wonderful council right now. I hate to see it break down, but you know, if you really think we're not doing what we need to do, that's one way. An easier way is to volunteer for commissions when the openings happen, and to also volunteer for specific city programs like ushering at the Lesher Theater. You get involved with nonprofits. You get to know your neighbors. You make sure that your neighborhood is well known by you. That makes our city better, stronger, and safer. And so it's just being not just coming home and sitting down in front of the TV and watching movies, or just worrying about your kid only at school. It's being a part of the community and helping us keep that small town-ish connectedness with each other. I think that's more important than anything. You can also write to us and in the city, and we read all the mail, and let us know what you think we're doing right. And if there's something you can't imagine what it might be we're doing wrong, you might mention that too.
Well, with that in mind, and it's a very touchy subject, and I just want to briefly have you address the issue of, I can recall in the past going to city council meetings and seeing poor members up there when somebody's complaining about there isn't a stop sign or something, perhaps impolitely, but all of a sudden we have now hate speech, and not just on Zoom, individuals actually showing up and have the temerity to say the things, the incredible things that they're saying. And I think everyone wants to know, how are we going to deal with that off into the future?
So I'm going to quote what Councilmember Wilkes said when the first most obnoxious guy came in. We live under the Constitution. We swore to behave and support the Constitution, and the Constitution Amendment 1 says we are a nation of free speech. And so we have to toe a line that's carefully between letting people shout fire in a movie theater and letting people say what they feel they need to say, rightly or wrongly. We had a spate of it when we had Zoom, and we just decided to drop Zoom because that allowed people to call from New York and Maryland and Florida or wherever they were. Now at least they have to show up in person and live with what they're saying. I have also started to request from everybody that you come to a Walnut Creek Council meeting, and during public comment, you come and you say, this is an open, warm, welcoming community, so that we have a strong contrast between the people who really live here and the wackadoodles who come and think they can stir up hate. So those are my suggestions. I have a little paragraph now. I'm hoping I'm not giving a secret away. I have a little paragraph that has gone through city manager review and legal review so that we are on the right side of the First Amendment. But I have something prepared to say so that I just don't say doggone, there you go again, so.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think, as awful as these comments have been when they have occurred, and as much as we would like to shut them down, obviously for legal reasons we can't, I think, looking for what good has come out of this, I think is the response from the community and people coming forward and denouncing this, showing support for our council members, for Councilmember Wilk in particular, who's been targeted with some of these comments, and for the city as a whole, and making it clear that this is not Walnut Creek. These folks are from outside the area. They're trying to create problems here. And really, the last meeting I thought was very touching. I think there were a lot of teary eyes in the audience and up on the dais listening to the comments as members of our faith-based communities from all kinds of religions came forward to make it clear they stand in solidarity with everyone in ensuring that Walnut Creek is welcoming. So I think that's one of the most powerful things that individuals in the community can do to denounce that type of behavior and make it clear what we do stand for here.
All right, and thank you. I think we're going to end on that delightful note, knowing that going forward in the future and the encouragement from our citizens on that particular issue. So I want to thank you again. Let's give a big round of applause to the So we chatted a little bit about public safety, at least it was mentioned, and now I'm honored to introduce Chief Jamie Knox of the Walnut Creek Police Department. He's a leader with incredible credentials and impeccable credentials and experience, so as a public safety leader. So he's put together a dynamic command staff since he's arrived. He's built an impressive police force here in Walnut Creek. This is a destination for police officers. They want to come to Walnut Creek. He's led the pivot, I call it, to modern policing, laser focused on the areas of concern in Walnut Creek, and we're pleased to have him. He's a real success, and I want to say kudos to our city manager for taking the time to get Chief Knox here in Walnut Creek, and we're just very blessed to have you here. So I'm going to turn it over to you. There will be questions afterwards, so we're going to let the chief give a presentation, and then for those of you who'd like to speak, we're going to have some microphones. Polite questions. Okay. Thanks, Chief.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you, Matt. That was a great introduction. And yes, polite questions is what I was promised. And to quote the mayor, there will be no wackadoodles coming to Walnut Creek. All right. So this may look somewhat familiar to some of you if you went to our last city council meeting. I'm just going to give a brief overview of our department, and I'm going to talk about what you all want to hear about. It's the state of the city as far as safety goes. So you might not know how complex a police department is. So, and I got to give a shout out to Matt and his AV team for quite a high resolution display, because that is really easier to see on this display. But our department has two major divisions. So we have an administrative division and then we have an operations division. The administrative division is everything behind the scenes that you don't really see every day, but it gives you a sense of how complex a department is. So we have an investigations bureau, which is comprised of four major components. We have property crime detectives, person crime detectives, we have crime analysts, we also have a high-tech crime detective who has specialized training in getting into all things technology, hacking into phones with a warrant, of course. We also have a professional standards unit, which is a relatively new unit for us, which oversees all of our personnel and training, our hiring, our public information, policy management, and internal affairs. And then support services is kind of an umbrella section for the administrative division, which includes your dispatch, your 911 center, communications, records, which is one of the most important components of policing these days, high liability. They do all of our quality control on our police reports and investigations, and then our police services officers who do parking enforcement, as well as provide other services to the community, and then property and evidence. And then the lion's share of the work, really what you really see out there visible every day, is under the command of Captain Ryan Hibbs in the back there. He's my moral support today. He's our operations captain, and it's the largest part of the police department. Most of the sworn staff fall under his command. So as you can see, we have a patrol bureau, which includes patrol, canine, contracts with outside entities. We have contracts with Apple, Nordstrom, John Muir, providing extra police services that they pay for. And then we have a cost-sharing police officer with Broadway Plaza. We have a traffic bureau, With motor officers, they focus on traffic safety, accident investigation. We do have our fair share of crashes here. And traffic issues, as was noted earlier. And then our homeless outreach also falls under the command of the traffic sergeant. And then we have special operations, which is everything else that you may not see all the time, but we have a SWAT team and a crisis negotiations team, which is a shared resource with 5 other cities. We pool our resources together. It gets us a much larger team and many more resources that we can pool. And then we have our UAV unit or a drone team, bomb squad, the only bomb squad in the county, and then our reserve division, which is about 28 reserve officers now. It's one of the largest reserve divisions per capita in the state. I wanted to talk about police department staffing real quick because that's what I'm asked about quite a bit, and that's what our council is asked about quite a bit. Hiring is difficult right now. We're all kind of going for the same qualified applicants, but of course we want the best of the best that we can get here. So currently, this is a snapshot of where we are today. We have 78 filled positions of our sworn staff, and currently we're allocated 85 sworn officers. So it's pretty good compared to some other, I won't name any names, but pretty good compared to some other agencies in the area. And then professional staff, we have 38.5 filled out of 43. And I will mention, this came up earlier, the mayor had mentioned that council did approve additional staffing for us during our last budget cycle, which was 5 additional police officers, which is going to bolster our downtown patrol. What we've been doing in the interim is filling downtown patrols with overtime. That's why you'll see a lot more downtown activity with the police officers because they are there. We were also allocated an additional dispatch supervisor, which reduced our span of control, which has worked out quite well. And then we have a crime prevention specialist that we'll be opening a recruitment for, and I'll talk a little bit more about what that person will do in just a moment. But our staffing, our filled positions only tells part of the story. Really, when you consider what we do, it's a 24/7 operation. We have people get hurt sometimes, people need to take vacation, people need to go out on training, but just looking at long-term leaves right now, between people who are in the police academy or in their field training program, and then people who are also out on an extended leave or modified duty. We have 17 officers out, or sorry, employees, that's employees total. So that does affect our deployment strength. So we're at 72% right now. It kind of fluctuates. Is this normal? It is. It's relatively normal right now, unfortunately. Sometimes legal legislation's passed that limits what police officers can do. If you remember when tasers first came out, it was a good tool to use, and a lot of officers would use the taser, go to the taser instead of going hands-on with someone. The courts kind of reeled that back a little bit, so now what we're seeing is we have to go hands-on again like we did in the old days, but we're also trying to be a little bit more careful. But what happens is when you're a little circumspect or apprehensive and you're trying not to hurt people to take them into custody, but sometimes people fight with the police. Well, it leads to officer injuries sometimes. So we're closely monitoring that. Now, what everybody's been waiting for, let's talk about crime. So this is a 5-year snapshot of crime in Walnut Creek. And as you can see, a majority of the crime that we have here is property crime. So we look at 5 years of data to establish what a normal range is. And as you can see by this graph here, and I apologize, the years are cut off, but I don't know if there's a laser pointer here, but the last column is 2023, and it's the lowest crime that we've had in the last 5 years. In fact, it was the lowest crime in the last 10 years. This is another way of looking at it. This is the per capita crime rate. And for 2023, we're at 27.8 crimes per 1,000 compared to the average. I think the average over the 5 years was right around 33. So again, overall, a majority of our crime that we see here is property crime. 95% on average, when looking at 5 years of data, is property crime. So our violent crime is usually, I'll go back, very low numbers, as you can see. That is for the entire year. So usually we're low double digits per month in violent crime. So from 2022 to 2023, we saw a reduction in crime of 18%. And year-to-date so far, we're at 20% less than we were same time last year. So what are our metrics, our performance metrics? What do we look at? So one thing we do is we look at how we contact people. This is proactive police work. These are not calls for service. These are officers out on patrol. So we have a couple outliers here. You can see 2019 was a very busy time, but our staffing was really high at that time. Then in 2020, when COVID happened, everybody, during the lockdown, there was nobody out. And I'm convinced that some criminals thought that we would arrest people if they were out after hours or during the lockdown, because, you know, you would almost see tumbleweeds go across the roadway because nobody was out driving. And I think the criminals thought that too. So we saw a dip in crime. And there was definitely a lull in contacts because of COVID. We wanted to be very careful about who we contacted and why, of course. But then something interesting happened. So we had you know, a national tragedy with the murder of George Floyd, and a lot of police departments became a little bit more circumspect in how we police, and we started looking at our policy and our procedures and really trying to be thoughtful at our policing model. So if you notice in 2022, so I came in here mid-2021, and we had to get everybody back to work and everybody back to doing police work, but in the right way. So you'll notice that we had an increase in officer productivity, but pedestrian stops is interesting. If you look at the orange graph, in 2023, they dropped dramatically. Anybody want to venture a guess why? Jaywalking became legal. So we have a lot of pedestrian crashes here, so officers would contact pedestrians who were jaywalking to try to prevent, you know, those crashes. But now you'll notice it's really bad over here on Broadway. I kind of wince when I look out my window when people are walking, but so far so good, but you got to be careful. All right, and then this is just a snapshot of calls for service. I think this usually surprises people at how many calls for service we get in a year that come into our dispatch center. So it's usually averages around 40,000. And of course, the outlier there is in 2020 and 2021, where we're still a little bit in the throes of COVID, but usually around 40,000 is kind of a normal number for us. And since we're talking about the future of Walnut Creek, we'll talk about the future of Walnut Creek PD. And we've heard a little bit about technology today. We are intensely focused on enhancing our technology with advanced integration. Well, what does that mean? We are currently in the process of implementing a new software service through a company that is going to allow us faster data acquisition and analysis, faster investigations, and electronic case filings with the DA's office. That'll be a huge force multiplier, and it creates an incredible efficiency. I mean, sometimes I'll see two detectives with banker's boxes leaving. Where are you guys going? Oh, we're going to the DA's office to file our case. And I have to check, what year are we in? But that's really how we still have to do it. Detectives have to go present their case to the DA's office. And so hopefully we're going to be propelled into the next century very soon here. And we're also going to be adding some ALPR cameras. We should be going out to RFP very soon. We've worked really hard as a city, as an entire city, to overhaul our camera approach, both in policy and hardware. As you know, a lot of you working in the business community, once you go with a technology platform, you're going to be stuck with it for a while. So we really wanted to make sure that we got this right. So we're getting very close to ramping up all of our technology when it comes to our ALPRs, and these are total game changers. This is what helps us solve crimes. We did come into some congressional funding. Thank you to Congressman DeSanye's office. We received just shy of $1 million that will help enhance our radio hardware. Our portable radios that we have are about 10 years old, and they don't have nearly half the capability as the new technology does. So we're hoping to enhance our public safety, safety of our officers with this better technology. And when we get this crime prevention specialist on board, our goal is to create a prevention program that supports crime-free multi-housing and then crime-free business. And with that, I'll open it up for any questions. Yes, I don't know if they want you to come to the microphone or... Yeah, it's probably harder for people up here to hear you.
Officer Knox, I'm Cindy Thompson. I'm member of the board of directors of the chamber, an ambassador, small business owner, and very active in Walnut Creek, and had the privilege last Friday of riding along with one of your fine officers, I think part of your staff, and learned a lot, but had two observations that I wanted to ask about. One was the pay scale here in Walnut Creek appears to be lower. You've got a union contract coming up next week, or not next week, next year. So wanted your thoughts on that. And also the processing time. When suspects are apprehended, they have to go through the nurse's station, and that can take a long time, and then off to the hospital and back in line. So if you could comment on those, that would be interesting.
Yeah, those are two great questions. I'll start with your second question. Yeah, booking times, it takes a while to process someone through the county jail. So legally speaking, all we're required to do to book somebody is photographs and fingerprints. But we want to send a message: if you come to Walnut Creek, you're going to county jail. So if we can take you there, we'll take you there. The problem with that is it's in Martinez, and there is a queue, and sometimes if there's a lot of agencies in front of the officer or officers that go up there, it can take a little bit of time. During COVID, the Martinez Detention Facility implemented a new program where, and every jail did, where everybody had to be screened. So before, if you if you were a suspect of being booked and you looked relatively healthy, you didn't have any open wounds or anything, they would just book you. Now, everybody has to be interviewed by the nurse, so it takes a long time. And if you have so much as, and this is hyperbolic, I apologize, but if you have so much as a paper cut, then you have to go get medically cleared. And so that means the officer now has to take custody of this person again, put them in the car, take them to the hospital, have them cleared by a doctor, written, cleared for, it could take an officer off the street for 4 hours. So we have voiced these concerns to the Sheriff's Department. They've been great partners to us, and they're really working hard to reduce some of those booking times. The great thing is we do have a lot of reserve officers that come out during the weekends, and they do a lot of our transports for us. So that is a challenge for sure. As far as pay, I haven't really looked at the math in a while, but I do know that there's a little bit of heartache out there that we're not the highest paid in the county. Are we competitive? I think we are, but I know there's a lot of other cities that are currently negotiating with various police officer groups, and we may be on the lower end of the spectrum sooner than later, but it is a great place to work. Quite frankly, I've hired a couple officers who have come here to take a pay cut because they thought what Walnut Creek had to offer was better than where they came from, and they're still here. And I do believe that it's not always about money. I mean, that is nice. It's expensive to live here. I get it. But we have a lot of people come here because Walnut Creek is a great agency. Yes, sir.
Hi. My name is Andre Obolensky. I own Main Street Automotive in downtown Walnut Creek. I'm a chamber member. Before this, I used to work for LoJack. And so I wanted to ask, with all the technology going on, we have fragmented companies within the telematics space and GPS space, and that now LoJack's being sunsetted because the RF technology is going away, which was a great technology, whereas GPS and telematics are not so great. What is the police department doing now to try and integrate that within your dispatch? Because I know as calls come in, there's a process you have to go follow through to ensure that we're still being able to track and find stolen vehicles. That would be my question. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, yeah, LoJack is kind of a thing of the past, but a lot of cars, surprisingly, don't have technology in them to track them. If the plates are on the car and we have our ALPRs are up and running, then usually that's how we find stolen vehicles. But a lot of these crime rings are now renting vehicles, and they're committing crime in their rentals that aren't really reported stolen until a certain period of time passes. So there are challenges for sure, but usually on stolen cars we try to sit on them, and we handle it in a different way. We don't try to get into high-speed police pursuits. Most of the time they don't pull us or pull over for us anyway. But it's, at the end of the day, it's a property crime, and we're really trying to focus on, preventing violent crime and stolen cars. That was kind of interesting. A few years ago, when LoJack was really popular, we saw a dip in stolen vehicles, and then now they're coming up again. Now people are using interesting technology to send signals to your car to unlock your car, and it's pretty wild how innovative people can be. But yeah, there needs to be better tech out there to prevent it, for sure. Anything else? Oh, I thought I was getting off easy. Okay, one more.
Thanks so much. I just had a quick question. As a business operator that has interests around the Bay Area, I was curious to know if you interface with any of your colleagues from the Oakland and Berkeley area, because oftentimes when you talk about problems in those areas, they say, oh, the state this, the state that, the state the other, and you guys are showing a decrease in crime, while in those municipalities, it appears that it's moving in the opposite direction. So I was curious, have you been able to pinpoint the secret sauce that you guys are working with here that seems to allow you to be moving in the right direction when so many local municipalities around you are trending in the opposite?
Yeah. So nationally, crime is actually coming down. We do see a regional trend here in this county where property crime has come down a little bit, but we think underreporting might be a part of that. But there are some cities who seem to experience more crime. We actually have an excellent working relationship with all of our regional partners, not just in this county, but also in Alameda County and some South counties as well. We're constantly trying to look for better ways to communicate real time and much faster, and I won't reveal all of the technology that we use, but I can say that it's getting better. And we do rely heavily on our intelligence networks. Oakland PD has probably one of the best crime intel units that I've ever had the pleasure of working with, and they've been a huge partner for us, where I've literally gotten personal text messages from people I know who are high up at OPD, like as things are happening, and I'll call the captains, and they're like, "How do you know this?" And hey, I've got connections. But so they've been a great partner to us, and you bring up an interesting point. There is a lot of regional crime here, so we've been fortunate to work with various task forces, the FBI, different county agencies, to really bring in some major crime rings that are responsible for a lot of the theft and a lot of the crime that you see. And here, it's not just one or two people doing it. Usually, it's organized crime, not always just retail theft, but some of these street robberies that we had a couple of years ago. That was all part of organized crime. So it's a regional challenge for sure. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Chief Knox, for coming today and participating in this lively discussion about the future of Walnut Creek. Before I introduce, by the way, I'm Bob Lynchide, President and CEO of the Chamber and Visitors Bureau. First thing I'd like to do is acknowledge our team at the Chamber and Visitor Bureau. If you're a member of the team, please stand so everybody can see your faces. And yeah, thank you. And it dawned on me that there's a considerable participation. In fact, this is the audience participation part of the program. So if you're a member of the current Leadership Contra Costa or an alumnus of Leadership Contra Costa, would you please stand so we can show the impact of this event? Isn't it great? Thank you all for being here. So the next portion of the program is about Shadelands. Shadelands Property Owners Business Improvement District has been a vibrant part of our community for a number of years. Chairing it from the original inception of the Shadelands PBID is Angela de la Housaye-Ashley. Angela is a past chair of our board and has been chairing the Shadelands PBID for a number of years. And I don't want to date her by announcing what that amount is, but Angela, would you please come forward and talk about Shadelands?
Well, it's an honor to chair the PBID committee. As Bob said, I've chaired it since its inception in 2014, and I've enjoyed every minute. Today, we are going to talk a little bit about the past, present, and future of Shadelands. So let me go ahead and start talking a little bit about it. It's a beautiful park. Shadelands encompasses 3.4 million square feet, and it's 270 acres of property. It's bordered by Ignacio Valley Road, Lennon Lane, Oak Grove, and the Northern Canal, and it's home to 106 property owners. History: it was established in 1975 on the historic site of Shadelands Ranch, and it was originally designed as a traditional office and research development location. Eventually, high vacancy developed, and those rates prompted the formation of what now is the PBID committee, and that's the committee I chair. So as we looked into some of those challenges, trying to reduce vacancy, the PBID was formed, and part of the aim was to distinguish Shadelands from other business parks, to develop a management district and a plan with the Chamber's leadership. And from that came the steering committee, which I chair, and that was formed to guide the district plan. And through that, additional services were introduced, including marketing, wayfinding, security, and a free shuttle bus to BART. Since that, it's evolved, and there have been a few iterations, but we're moving into a new era, and we're finding that the businesses now include targeting innovative businesses like health and wellness, fitness technology, craft food and beverage, and it's aiming to establish Shadelands as a world-class medical and sports destination, among other things. It also is becoming a sustainability partner. We're trying to be seen as a leader in that sustainability, and we're targeting 100 more EV charging stations. Also, there's infrastructure improvement, safer crosswalks, bike lanes, and completed sidewalks where they ended. It also is home to community events, which are very active, food trucks, hosted by Kaiser Permanente, our event, which is very well attended, Made in the Shade, chess tournaments, cornhole courts, Tai Chi mornings, and a Blue Dot Club. And moving into something we consider very vital is our brand and vision. We're rebranding with Creative Mint, led by our lead consultant, Calvin Young, who's here today. And that rebrand demonstrates a colorful and vibrant brand aligned with the new vision. It also includes a moving advertisement, which is our Shadelands bus. Our new wrap will utilize more moving billboard to showcase Shadelands' many, many offerings, including the legendary sports mall, the arts center, farmers market, workspace, childcare, animal services, which is now Joybound, craft beer, fitness center, and retail space. It's also considered innovative in the communication we hope to use. We're looking to use video and signage systems to creatively communicate very effectively and enhance that experience, which demonstrates creative enhancement that promotes both commerce and community. This shows you just a little bit of what Shadelands is becoming and what Shadelands is about now. And now, we have a video.
Make the most of your day at Shadelands, with over 300 ways to brighten your life. Train for a favorite sport. Make health a priority. Choose farm fresh. Enjoy your choice of comfort foods. Discover new brews. Join a community. Begin a family. Welcome a new friend. Entertain with stories. Give back to yourself. Make your idea a success.
I see that, I want a hamburger. So that's the new Shadelands. And if you haven't been out there recently, I encourage you to go. It's growing and becoming and evolving, and we're just so proud of it. Any questions? Okay, thank you so much for your time.
Okay. You know, the power of partnership in our community is never more present than our relationship with Walnut Creek Downtown. We've enjoyed this relationship, and as you know, Walnut Creek is known for its vibrant downtown. So we thought we'd close the portion of the program with two representatives from downtown. First is Kathy Hemmenway, my counterpart and executive director of Walnut Creek Downtown, and then board president Brian Hirahara, who's not only a property owner downtown, but somebody deeply committed to the vibrancy of downtown. And so we have a lot of information to share. Kathy, you're up first. Please help me welcome Kathy Hemmenway.
Thank you. Happy to be here, and thank you for the invitation. I wanted to share a little bit about Walnut Creek Downtown, the Walnut Creek Downtown Association, give you a little bit of an overview, and then share what we're looking forward to in the future for the downtown. The Downtown Association is comprised of two bids and includes 29 blocks within the downtown district, Newell Avenue to the south and Giamona Drive to the north, and then the blocks in between Broadway and North California. So the Walnut Creek Downtown leverages our assessment fees to increase the visibility and vitality of the downtown. And these funds, together with sponsorships, sponsorship support, and event revenue, help pay for a wide range of projects and activations. And we're grateful to the Chamber of Commerce and Visit Walnut Creek for bringing one of their key events, the Women's Conference, to the downtown. That has been a wonderful addition over the last couple of years, and we're looking forward to being able to expand that program, and we're so grateful for the exposure that our businesses have by those 600 plus attendees. These are just a couple examples of our advocacy efforts for our 680 businesses. And one highlight I wanted to share was a vision plan. We talked about strategic plans and the North Downtown specific plan. We're looking at doing a vision plan. We've requested proposals from consultants to draft this plan with our board and our community partners. We'll be creating goals and an action plan for the downtown as well as the organization. And we'll be conducting that through focus groups and membership and resident outreach. And this will be a very critical component to the future of Walnut Creek's downtown. We are busy with a lot of community activities and beautification. These are beautification projects. These are just a few of the programs that will continue in 2024. Summer Arts in Walnut Creek is going to be a newer program that has evolved from Arts Around August. It'll be a 3-month program with our 12 community partners, and are looking forward to being able to produce programs, new and existing, for all of those organizations. And then we're also going to be bringing in some artwork with the Big Belly wraps. So 52 Big Belly trash units are scattered throughout the downtown. We'll be putting out an artist call with the Bedford Gallery and our city partners to receive new artwork that will be wrapped around those units within, hopefully within the next couple of months, definitely by the summer. Speaking of the future, we continue to evolve. This is a lot of numbers, but I just wanted to share how our social media and our digital platforms have evolved over the last couple of years. We continue to increase our engagement and outreach, and this is all free to our members, and so it's a great opportunity to showcase their businesses. And we've also instituted some co-op ads with our media partners, including Diablo Magazine and the East Bay Women's Conference, where we had an ad within the program for 10 of our participating and supporting restaurants. We kicked off our season, our event season, with our membership event on, was 2 weeks ago, at Rooted Coffee Shop, and that was attended by about 80 of our downtown members. We look forward to continuing to be able to provide those networking opportunities. One of our goals for this upcoming year is also a new endeavor by creating a 501c3 nonprofit organization, which will be an extension of Walnut Creek Downtown. This community partnership for Walnut Creek Downtown, its mission is to develop, support, and promote artistic, cultural, and public events that benefit businesses, individuals, and stakeholders within the service area of downtown Walnut Creek. So an application is in process for that new endeavor, and we're looking to be able to continue community-based events that engage residents and visitors and our community partners. And then the website upgrade in an effort to increase, again, the visibility and brand exposure of our members. We are trying to streamline and get a little bit further into this 21st century with a new platform that will be integrated into our current website that features a business directory, interactive map, event calendar, merchant spotlight, job posting, blog posts, and more. So lots more to come on our digital platform. This is our calendar for our upcoming events that are all taking place in 2024. Some of our highlights that we are going to be featuring this year include the return of Walnut Creek First Wednesday with not one but two of those very popular events. And that event in particular will be hopefully on Locust Street. So barring the construction schedule, we'll be able to move that from Cypress Street. We've outgrown that space and are looking forward to be able to use a couple of blocks of Locust Street. Walnut Creek Uncorked will be reduced down to one event, but we're looking forward to incorporating that into our summer arts program. And then Oktoberfest will have quite a few changes, but all improvements to our very successful program that we've brought back last year. We welcomed over 12,000 guests, so we think this event has legs, and we're gonna go for it. So look forward to hosting that event the last weekend of September. And then, again, in regards to collaborations, we partnered with the Walnut Creek Education Foundation just last week to help them bring back one of their events, Spring Fling Taste and Toast. We had over 600 families within the downtown and be able to enjoy each other, performances. Students were running throughout the city, volunteering, and then also showcasing some of their artwork. I had already mentioned Summer Arts in Walnut Creek. We'll be bringing back the holiday tree lighting ceremony. This past year, we were able to host that return after about 9 or 10 years. So we'll be collaborating with Walnut Creek on Ice to hopefully coincide that ceremony with the opening of the ice rink. And as many of you know, our ice rink had a shorter season this year. Although successful, we hope to be able to bring it back to at least 10 weeks for this upcoming season in '24. So that is all I have for you. Thank you. So I now have the pleasure of introducing Brian Hirahara of BH Development, who serves as our president of the board of directors. As Bob alluded to, he's a fiercely dedicated champion of downtown Walnut Creek, and we are grateful that he is in his third term of being president of our board of directors. So Brian will be sharing with you today his thoughts on current and future leasing opportunities within the downtown and how it impacts our downtown business community.
Thanks, Karen.
hate being last on the agenda. I know you guys are nodding off and thinking about that glass of wine at Buon Vino, so I'm going to try to rifle through this. But I do want to acknowledge Bob, to his point, that when Bob first came on the chamber, he said, we're going to put aside our competing interests and partner together. And it's been a game changer. It's been the most, I've been on the board for over 30 years for Walnut Creek Downtown, president third time, but if you die or you quit is the only time you get off the presidency. So one might happen soon, but it's the most, it's been a great partnership, as well as with other partners that I'll mention a little later, but I'm going to try to get through this. I got a lot to cover and get to that glass of wine. I've got new tenants, leased but not yet open, development projects, and vacant. I'll go through it, but I'm actually, because I have so much to cover, if you're already open, you're not the future of Walnut Creek. By the way, this is the past, but this is a fertility clinic. I didn't know what it was. I had to look it up. Across from City Hall, Essence and Library on Main. Palatial Faith just opened. It's handbags. A lot of people know that Scott's is now the Garden, private events and concerts. I'm trying to get through these quick. Just opened Easy Breezy, and they have vegan options, which is different. Froyo. Hakashi Sushi right next door in the middle, and this is on Main Street, is under construction, should open soon. 5 Tacos and Beers Mellows on Locust Street, you probably know. Dozone is another dumpling place. It's a chain that's in the old Veggie Grill. Just mention, we just extended Tiffany for 10 years, which we're very happy. And they committed to, they said, a $5 million remodel. That still was 20 years ago their first East Bay store, and it's still their only East Bay store. So again, Walnut Creek being the center of retail and other things. Crate and Barrel used to be Talbot's, moved to this location. Cholita Linda just opened up in the mall, known for their fried fish tacos. Lifetime, never thought I'd join, but we joined as a family. I thought it was too hoity-toity, but it's beautiful, and it's actually for a family was a great deal. Hopefully I'll see some of you there. I went from Planet Fitness to here, so that was a huge jump. No offense, but I call it the poor man's gym, because then I realized that, anyway, we made the jump, but Cooper's just opened up pretty recently, and it's been a lot of different restaurants, and it's actually doing well, and I think the food's pretty good, so kudos to them. Verizon and Xfinity just opened up in Main Street Plaza, or actually Xfinity's going to be opening shortly by Ross. Not yet open, here's the main. Tozai Izakaya, which is on Giamona next to Skipolini's, has been, I don't know how many different restaurants over the years. It's going to be Sweet Maple. It's been rumored for a long time, but it sounds like it's still happening. They're known for, it's mostly breakfast and lunch, and they're known for their Millionaire's Bacon. So hopefully that, once a restaurant, always a restaurant, because the investment, you'll see the same spaces turn over and over again until someone figures out the right formula. This is on Main Street, kind of across the street from City Hall and down a little bit. It was former Phoenix Salon. It's going to be Highline Custom Jewelry, another jeweler. Ming Kwang was around forever. Somebody told me 60 years. I don't know how long, but a long time. And it's going to be Crystal Dreams, so crystals. Go figure. This is the old Kaiwa Sushi on Locust Street. Again, once a restaurant, always a restaurant. Next to Discovery Shops is going to be Dariush Persian cuisine, so that's a little different, so something different. Fizz has been going forever. This is next to Lita on Bonanza. They had contractor issues. It seems to be pretty common. It's a champagne bar. They're under construction again, so it's good to see that they figured that out. This has been up for a while too, Brioche de Paris, which is great. They're expanding next door to a patisserie concept, so sweet. So again, another indication that they're successful where they are. This is on Locust next to the piano, Steinway Piano. Bonanza, this is the old PG&E building. and it was purchased by a family that's going to do a restaurant called Stereo 41. Again, converting retail or office actually into restaurant, very expensive investment. This is what it looks like. Continental cuisine, Continental American, I believe. They have in-house DJ booth, so whatever that means. This is actually our building. Papyrus is in there. We had a wine bar that went bankrupt. This is next to Cream. Hot Boys is to the left on Main Street. It's called Chateau. Main hook was to get that European alleyway on the right side. It's she has a charcuterie board business, and she's be charcuterie board, small plates, artisanal cocktails, and caviar. That's hopefully what it'll look like. She should open up in the next couple months, so we're hoping that'll be something different. And I like the artisanal cocktail part best, so we'll see. Talking martini flights, samplers, pretty cool. On Main Street, next to Core Power Yoga and Labels, this was the old Grit Cycle that closed during COVID. It is going to be the futon shop. I didn't even know they sold futons anymore. But you think about it, with housing and having to squeeze into spaces, if your couch becomes a bed, that's a pretty good thing. So that was vacant for, it's a big space. So that was good to hear that that's leased. This is a big one. Main Street, Vineyard Vines on the left, Tomatina to the right. This is the old La Fogata. It's owned by the family who had the restaurant. It's going to be model bakery. Pretty big deal. We've needed a bakery for a long time. They're basically rebuilding the building. Contractor we're using on a project is doing the construction. And this is what it's going to look like. So they got display window on the left to see the bakers, which is really cool. Dining on the patio on the right. They're known for being on Oprah's favorites list for English muffin. What a big deal. They're out of St. Helena. And this is an indication that of all the Bay Area, they picked Walnut Creek to put a flagship. I think it's going to be a production facility to support their wholesale as well as the retail. They're spending a fortune on the build out, and it's obvious. And if anybody's hungry, that looks really good. This is Locust Street, the old kitchen table, and then it was Hook Gym for about a minute. And it's now going to be ISI Elite Training, so a gym. This is Sweet Green on Mount Diablo Boulevard. So the back of that space, it's kind of odd. It doesn't even look like a storefront, but it's going to be Ronbo Kitchen, Bath, and Closet. So interesting that I as a developer and property owner, I found it shocking that they gave the front of the space away versus trying to split it, but they got a tenant, so all the power to them. Pier 1 has been vacant for a while. It's going to be Terra Teak, which is down the street. It's a 10,000 square foot building. This is our project above Vada V. We have a med spa that's on that deck. It's about a 2,000 square feet space under the oak tree. It's got a great deck. We're working with Calicraft to do the first downtown brewery tap room, which we're very excited about, to the credit of Shadelands, which is where he opened up initially. So I can't believe there's not a downtown tap room. So excited about that. It's not a done deal, but again, it's more of an urban direction. Handel's Ice Cream is going in the former Take One Pizza was open for about 30 seconds, but next to Starbucks in the theater, so another ice cream place. Pinstripes is going into the old Crate and Barrel. They only have 13 of these across the country. So again, the fact that they picked Walnut Creek, there's one in the Bay Area and I believe San Mateo. So it's restaurant, bocce ball, and bowling. And they have about 1,000 events, private events a year in these things. So weddings, birthdays, you name it. So I think that's going to be, and I'll mention it later, but interactive, not just, we have a lot of eating and drinking, but not a lot of experiences. So that will be good. That's what the rendering looks like. Broadway Plaza next to Haagen-Dazs, kind of by Soul Cycle, is Palmetto Foods. It's acai bowls. Vitality Bowls closed on Locust. My daughters are super excited. They're really popular. The old Stanfords. So this is next to Lifetime across from Cooperage. You probably know Original Joe's. I've never been, but it's super popular. Has a huge draw. Again, they picked Walnut Creek, so I think this is going to be a real winner. Future development projects. Before I get into development, I'll say that not completely, but development is not, being a developer, it's not dead in its tracks, but with the fact that interest rates have doubled, labor and construction costs have gone through the roof, it's almost impossible to develop. So my opinion, what do I know, but the projects are being kind of approved and such for the future because it's almost impossible. It's like buying a house, it's, unless you wait for the variable rates on loans. So there are definitely challenges, but it's a cycle, so it'll change. This is the Honda dealership, which is roughly Giamona, Maine, Locust, goes all the way almost to Target on a portion of it. It's about 2 acres. They're going through a very preliminary process to have that approvals for or feedback from the city on a mixed-use project. And this is a theme I'll mention later with the auto dealers. And so again, that's very early on, but that'll be a mixed-use, multi-level project for residential. This is California Bonanza, the former Relax the Back, and King's Jewelers. Several parcels are under control or owned by a local developer who's gone to council once on preliminary, not even design, I guess, but feedback from the council on doing a large residential mixed-use project. And as been mentioned, there's a lot of pressure from the state to put in housing, so the city's in a difficult position that I don't envy, where they're trying to manage or balance, as Dan mentioned, balance is being the key of providing residential units, but also preserving neighborhoods, et cetera. And the Almond Chewy neighborhood has always been kind of a sacrosanct neighborhood to protect. So it's a challenge. They went to council once and it didn't get approved. So I imagine they'll probably come back with a revised project, but that's something on the horizon. Downtown definitely needs housing, but again, it's a thorny issue and a slippery slope with this location, as many are these days. This is the site from the former Walnut Creek Automotive to the left of Slice House and the right of Sweet Green / Rombo that I just mentioned. And the developer is the same developer as the McDonald's site. They paid $10 million for this location. They went through in a fully approved 32-unit mixed-use, roughly 9,000 square foot residential or retail on the ground floor. I assume it's on hold. Again, what I mentioned earlier, just because of rates and costs and all et cetera. But eventually, that will be a project. Not the worst thing in the world that we've got a parking lot in the middle of the core that is very active. Neiman Marcus closed their store in the Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Broadway Plaza / Macerich, they ground leased the site, so they didn't build the building. Neiman Marcus did. Broadway Plaza also owns the P.F. Chang's building that is closed on the other end. The small building in the middle that used to be Chico's and then Mscape was a holdout property owner. The Macerich and Broadway Plaza purchased it for $10.4 million, which is crazy. But they'll take that entire block. My assumption is that they'll take that block and mirror Broadway Point or something and put a project. I think that's kind of the ugly backside of Broadway Plaza. So I think the fact that they're going to take that side and make it more like the rest of the project is going to be a good thing for the area. This is 1250 Locust. It is the former Veterans site right across the street from the theater. As I mentioned, we developed and own the project where Vada V is, and you can see the oak tree. we had a fully approved food halls along the a la Ferry Building, Oxbow Market, very community-centric, artisanal food stalls, kind of the ultimate project for my career, and opening up a big European courtyard around the oak tree and a gathering place. And we hit a speed bump called a pandemic. So pretty much all communal dining, which killed the concept. So I'm in the middle of redesigning the project to still be a food hall. I believe in the concept. I think it's what we really need as a community, but to be made at least part, if not mostly, out of repurposed shipping containers, which is a more urban approach and still has all the elements that I'm very excited about. So stay tuned. Hopefully you'll see something soon when interest rates come down as well as cost. This is the site that was Pinky's way back on, I guess it's California, behind, across the street from Trader Joe's. It was purchased by a group that's basically put a coat of paint and changed the windows, but that'll be for lease. Probably too expensive to redevelop. Vacant properties, these aren't the only ones, and I'm not going to name, but I think when you hear a lot of sometimes the vacancy statistics, they don't really underwrite or mention the fact that one downtown property owner, and I'm not disparaging them, but they own close to 20 properties, and people always ask, you know, what's going on with the former Chili's de la Stella? The owner had a restaurant. It was vacant for many years. Had a big deposit. The restaurant had issues, and they ran away, and there were structural issues, so the city made them demolish the building, which was an eyesore. So that is owned by the same owner who owns the beautiful former Krogan's. It's been closed for I don't know, a long time. And which is owned by the same owner who has this building, which was the old ballet studio. Jenny's owns the ballet studio. And the two tenants down spaces, I don't even know, it's 15 years now. I don't even remember what was in there. So tends to just sit on the properties. And again, I'm not trying to disparage them. It's just people ask. And I think you kind of have to know that these are properties that are kind of out of the norm of what's going on in Walnut Creek. This is the former Koja Kitchen A-plus corner, kitty corner from the Cheesecake and across from the theater. It's been vacant several years. It's already got the restaurant improvements, but it's just sitting vacant. So again, I'm just bringing it up so because people always ask what's going on, you know, and that's just you have to understand that some of the most high-profile vacancies are out of our control. So I don't want to finish with that slide, so I'll leave it there. So I'm not done. Sorry, I'll keep it short. I came for 5 more minutes, Bob? Yeah. So since it's really about the future of Walnut Creek, I really wanted to finish with my read of what's going on for what little I know, but a couple of threats and opportunities to think about. We have always been the top of the food chain. I'd like to say that we still are, but historically there was some complacency, I think, and it's been historically very difficult to do things in Walnut Creek. It has changed a lot. Danville, Lafayette, and San Ramon and Concord, the Veranda kind of came out of nowhere and took a lot of tenants that were trying to get into Walnut Creek. San Ramon City Center, they have a ton of money. Bishop Ranch, they're buying a lot of tenants. They have the money to say, Alex Fan from Slanted Door, you know, we'll build you a restaurant, you pay percentage rent only. So they're very successful. It's a different model. I only mention it because it used to be we were kind of the only game in town, and now it's been humbling in a good way, I think, and COVID also exposed some weaknesses that we have. Just natural competition, so it's good, but it has changed a lot of things in the city that I'll mention. As Dan mentioned, retail is strong here, but outside of Broadway Plaza, it's challenging. COVID had impacts that now it's the Amazon effect. A lot of people are shopping online. So if you think about it, we have gyms going in, we have a lot of med spas, we have salons. There's not that much retail. And it's not just us. So that's one of the challenges of Walnut Creek downtown is to activate more retail. Another threat that is really an opportunity is crime and public safety. in perception, not in reality. We have a very safe downtown, but sometimes people say, oh, I mean, bounty hunter in our parking lot, the guy got stolen, a Rolex stolen, things like that. Well, we're the victim of our own success sometimes because of course people are going to come out at us. We have a very good relationship at Walnut Creek Downtown with the PD, with the chief, and they're very proactive. Kathy and I had a meeting last week with Captain Hibbs, and just have to really appreciate the policing that we have and the relationship. I think we're very fortunate. My brother lived in Oakland for two years. I don't want to throw rocks at another city, but I visited him one time. I ran from my car in the parking structure to get in there. I was so scared. And I try to stay off the freeway in Oakland. I mean, it's just, we're very lucky that we have a very safe city, and again, it's thanks to the police department. So that is a potential weakness, but it's a strength. Opportunities, we're becoming a more urban city. I don't want to use urbanization, but we're suburbs struggling with the challenges of urbanization. One small example is when we built the Tiffany project 20 plus years ago, we were going to be the evil, greedy developer, redundant statement, but and we were going to chop the oak tree down, the beautiful tree, and build a parking structure, because back then we thought you have to have parking. And we were shocked that all the tenants, including Tiffany, said, we'll pay the same rent. They didn't even bat an eye about parking. And years later, we kind of realized that we're becoming a more urban environment. The city will say, park once and shop. And that's what it is. My mom still says she's in Rossmore, and she'll say, there's nowhere to park. We have to park in a parking structure. So we're used to parking right in front, so that's changing. When I go out, I take Uber. I want to be able to have 2 or 3 glasses of whatever it is, a drink, and not have to worry about it. So, PD, don't listen to that. So, no, actually, I'm taking Uber, so I'm okay. But we are becoming a more urban environment. Another thing is when we were developing the project with Rooftop and Teleferic, we can't tell you how many restaurants we met that said, right on the site, I want to be on the ground floor. And I said, you can't pay it's too expensive. No one would talk to us. We were half under construction before we leased the 2nd and 3rd floors. And we got lucky that we got the 2 only people that would talk to us, and they're both exceeding volumes of 95% of the ground floor restaurants. And even more so than we thought we were confident, but it changed kind of as we become a more urban environment. Another opportunity or positive is the relationship with the city. Probably 10, 15 years ago, you said economic development here, they'd say, what? What are you talking about? As Dan mentioned, we have a very strong economic development department, great partner. During COVID, we had Rebound, which just did things and amazing things. The culture has changed. I'm getting goosebumps right now because it's like what I was mentioning with the chamber, because historically it's been very difficult. The city's looking at changing Design Review Commission to be an advisory board. It's actually studying it. I'm not saying it's done. Well, the average project for us takes at least 5 Design Review Commission hearings, so that's about a year to year and a half. And again, it's not a done deal, but the fact that they're open to looking at the process when there's been a lot of complaints is just, to me, a game changer. So the city, the council, staff has been a great partner to downtown, and it's really changed a lot. Our restaurant scene, there's over 20 restaurants that are looking downtown. So even as we see more restaurants, there's a whole bunch that are looking. I am worried about the likes of Original Joe's and Pinstripes, because they'll probably do 20, 30, 35 million between the two of them. So we need to bring more people in. And that's with the Visit Walnut Creek in the Chamber and continuing that partnership. We're also seeing retail converted to restaurants. Bounty Hunter was Tommy Bahama. PG&E is going to be a restaurant. So that's great, but we need retail as well. So that is a challenge. It sounds crazy, but hopefully use the restaurants to elevate our retail. The one example I use is that Cupcaking, which is in our building, stays open late because everybody goes out to restaurants and then they want to have dessert afterward. So if retailers see people on the street, you could shoot a cannon at 5:15 downtown as far as the retail. So to get them to stay open because their people are there. Another huge opportunity, is we don't have one Michelin anything in our downtown, or what's the other one? James Beard. So we're getting more restaurants, but hopefully we can get some. We have a lot of good restaurants, but hopefully we'll keep on elevating that. The residential housing is a big opportunity, and there's been a lot of discussion today, but hopefully filling that residential need near downtown, near the freeway, near BART. We have a Measure A height limit, which has always been a challenge, so at some point I think that may get pushed. And then, as mentioned, the auto dealers. Toyota is looking at a approval process to do, they've got a lot of square footage around them where they are, that's not downtown, but to do a mixed-use project there. As I mentioned, Honda is doing that. If you look at a bunch of the real estate between City Hall and Ignacio and north of there, it's all controlled by these dealerships. If they can monetize those sites and still have their dealership, because we want the sales tax, but you look at Tesla, they just have the showroom. So is that the future? In my opinion, those parcels are so valuable. If they can monetize them and still have their dealership and activate that downtown area, I think it's huge. So the last two, as far as how I see downtown, hopefully we do this on our projects, but I think capitalizing, as mentioned earlier, on experiential, things you can't do on the internet. Everybody got used to doing everything on the internet. A lot of people do DoorDash. So do you do restaurants like Lita, where it's all the Instagram and they have beautiful food and you want to take a video of it? Create a European environment that we try to do, and I would use Vada V and Bounty Hunter with the courtyard and the walkway. We all want to escape and feel like we're in Europe, but be in our backyard. We want good food and not be in our backyard and feel like we're somewhere else. So I think that is the key. Experiential. Another example is I threw pottery on this weekend at Rebel Art Studio, which is near Kaiser. It was so fun. Board and brush. Just great uses that aren't typical retail, but bring people for experiences. And so I see the future is creating I mentioned the arts. I'm a board member with Peggy on the DRA, Diablo Regional Arts Association for the Lesher Center. Is how do we become more than just a kind of boring suburban downtown? It's more head fountains, it's more Bullman, it's more murals, and the city has a matching program that we're working with them on. Bringing performances outside of the Lesher, which they're doing, which is awesome. And creating a more kind of hip, fun, artsy, a lot of the programs that Kathy highlighted that we're already doing, but do that even more. Again, things you can't do on the internet. And lastly, as I mentioned with Bob in the beginning, is that the most exciting thing to me is that the collaboration and partnership with the Chamber, Visit Walnut Creek, Lesher Center, DRAA, the city, Broadway Plaza, we're all rowing in the same direction, the strongest that I've ever seen in 30 plus years, and I get goosebumps. Hopefully I won't cry. But it's when everybody's working together, the sky's the limit. And it wasn't always that way. Everybody was kind of doing their own thing. So with a lot of the leadership of a lot of people in this room, and I'm not blowing smoke up or you know what, but I'm very happy and excited and about the future for Walnut Creek, and especially downtown. And I want to thank all of you for your participation and partnership. Thank you. Sorry, I tried to go fast.
It's all right, Brian. Thanks so much for concluding. So don't leave yet, because I have to tell you about the wine. But first thing I want to do is acknowledge our sponsors. You've seen them here. We will be going across the street to Bonvino, but I have some brief remarks. I want to first of all thank Matt Bollender from the city of Walnut Creek for his work on helping us prepare this room, and Naveed, who is helping us in the back. Thanks very much, Naveed. Your name tag is your free admission to the Bonvino reception, so bring that with you. I also want to mention that this event will be posted on the city's YouTube channel, so you'll see the lights and everything, but this will be on the YouTube channel. Watch for announcement on the State of the Chamber, which is going to be in April. Art and Wine Festival will be in its final year for a while at Heather Farm this year, June 1st and 2nd. And our hope in 2025 is to move it in a location not too far from this building, which means downtown, obviously. We're working on that. You know, we've delved into quite a few topics today: public safety, acknowledging the importance of a robust downtown, and the uniqueness of Shadelands. Proactive community engagement in these initiatives by working hard hand in hand, as Brian mentioned, the power of partnership. Walnut Creek Downtown stands as a vibrant hub of culture, commerce, and recreation. The Shadelands District holds immense promise as a dynamic center for innovation, entrepreneurship, and sustainable development. You know, as we chart a course together for Walnut Creek's future, let's remain steadfast in our resolve to uphold the values that we all share, that of diversity, compassion, and forward-thinking solutions. Let's keep our community spirit alive, and as we join together across the street, let's toast Walnut Creek's future. As I mentioned, Matt Bolender, appreciate his support. I want to recognize Betsy Burkhart for her assistance in all of this. And lastly, I want to acknowledge Terry Kilgore. As many of you know, Terry is leaving Walnut Creek for the city of Scottsdale, Arizona. Immediately when I heard the news, I thought, spring training. And Terry's cell phone will remain the same, so you're welcome to text her and let her know that you need tickets, right? Absolutely. So thank you for your presence today. It's heartwarming to see so many gathered to talk about the future of Walnut Creek. Have a good day. And get over to across the street so we can empty the room.